Welcome to Trial Site News Weekly Roundup. My name is Adrian, and I'll be going over some of our top news stories from this past week. Please click the subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. This week we start our roundup with clinical trial-related news. WCG recently introduced its Velos eResearch eXpress, a turnkey solution for sustainable advancement of growth of clinical research sites. They purport the solution to be an out-of-the-box, cloud-based solution that enables clinical research sites to centralize and manage their research activities on a single automated technology platform. WCG acquired Velos at the beginning of January 2019 as it continues to add capability to its private equity-backed consolidation strategy. Meanwhile, Velocity Clinical Research is delighted to announce that its senior management team is expanding again this year. Melissa Holbrook joins the Velocity Clinical team as VP Operations and will be responsible for clinical operations at all of Velocity's sites. Melissa comes to Velocity Clinical after 13 years at IQVIA, where she held positions of increasing responsibility in clinical operations and site management, most recently as VP of Design and Delivery Innovation. Jeff Jensen hands over the site operation responsibilities to Melissa so he can turn his full attention to Velocity Clinical acquisition activity as Senior VP Corporate Development. Velocity Clinical is actively pursuing a number of acquisition targets and expects to significantly increase in size by the end of the year. These experienced professionals are fully committed to helping Velocity create new opportunities to provide outstanding service for its customers who strive to get drugs to market as quickly and efficiently as possible. Elsewhere, the Trial Site News research team recently conducted research to understand trends in drug development timelines, from initial investigatory new drug or IND filing to new drug application or the NDA approval. We encountered some surprises. First, we found that the FDA doesn't allow the public to access IND data, not even the date when the submission was filed. Second, for those drugs where we found IND application dates, we uncovered that the average time from IND filing to NDA approval was not what many might assume, under 6 years. Trial Site News Research analyzed drug approvals to date for 2019. Out of 48 approvals, we were able to secure investigatory new drug IND approval data for 22 new approved products. To read the summary, please click on the link below in the description. Elsewhere in clinical trial-related news, In Silico Medicine recently described the revolutionary forces of AI at work, radically accelerating the drug development process, one that today takes 10 to 20 years and from $500 million to $2.6 billion, to figures far more appealing for drug companies, investigators, and patients. It evidenced AI's impact today in a study revealing a new AI system that successfully identified 6 substances that block a certain enzyme responsible for fibrosis and other illnesses in just 3 weeks. China may be at the epicenter of this epic force. There are huge changes coming with AI. We can see it in many facets of life today. But we are also cognizant of the conservative and highly regulated nature of healthcare and life sciences around the world, factoring China's boom in as well. In many ways, the market was educated about AI thanks to the huge sums of money spent by IBM to showcase Watson in a variety of industries. As we have reported, that has led to mixed results in the real world. AI is thought of as an investment in the drug discovery and development world. It will, over time, we think, yield big returns. But don't expect it fast. We are still at the earliest stages of what is an unfolding, complex, and dynamic story. Turning now to SiteWatch Challenge News. On August 19, 2019, Errant Gene Therapeutics met the face of victory when the New York Supreme Court Justice Barry Ostriker sanctioned Bluebird Bio Incorporated, or Bluebird, and rejected Bluebird's efforts to prevent EGT from proceeding with its lawsuit in Massachusetts against Bluebird CEO Nick Leslie and Bluebird's venture capital partner Third Rock Ventures, LLC. As reported by Business Wire. In addition to this major win, Judge Ostriker made all court materials public, which can be viewed on our website, which the link will be provided in the description as well. Meanwhile, India's ICMR panel calls for termination of the Nestle-sponsored clinical trial for milk substitutes. It has ruled that the Swiss company's sponsorship of a 5-hospital study violates India's law on infant milk substitutes. ICMR is recommending not only immediate termination of the clinical trial, but also the prosecution of the violators, researchers, and company. This development occurs even as more examples of ongoing examples of Nestle sponsoring clinical trials has been identified by the government, reports the Times of India. It would appear that the Indian government will prosecute those that are involved with what appears to be a case of violation of Indian law on behalf of Nestle and a dozen-plus Indian research centers and clinical investigators and physicians. And we'll keep you posted on the story as it develops. Turning now to cancer-related news. Sponsored by AstraZeneca, the Pacific study was a Phase 3 randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled, multi-center international study of MEDI-14736, or durvalumab, as sequential therapy in patients with locally advanced, unresectable, non-small cell lung cancer, Stage 3, who have not progressed following definitive platinum-based concurrent chemoradiation therapy. The Pacific trial evidenced the addition of durvalumab as consolidation therapy significantly improved progression-free survival and overall survival versus placebo in patients with Stage 3 NSCLC who did not have disease progression after 2 or more cycles of platinum-based chemoradiation. Following this study, more patients with Stage 3 NSCLC should be eligible for immunotherapy, and we'll keep you posted from here. Elsewhere, in cancer-related news, through the National Cancer Institute's Moonshot Cancer Initiative, the federal government is funding multi-million-dollar moonshot grants, U54, to researchers dedicated to understanding Ewing sarcoma and developing new therapeutic targets for the cancer. The grants were awarded to investigators at the University of Utah Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and the Abigail Wexner Research Institute at Nationwide Children's Hospital. These researchers are on a mission to unravel the mysteries of how Ewing sarcoma forms, how it spreads, and how it can be defeated. Meanwhile, the Italian IFA, Italian Medicines Agency, announced a new reimbursement strategy called Payment as a Result to be tested on Novartis CAR T-cell therapy Kymriah. Developed for B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia, all in refractory in relapse post-transplant or in second or later relapse, and for adult patients with relapsed or refractory diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, or DLBCL, post 2 or more lines of systemic therapy. In Italy, Kymriah is funded by a special fund for innovative oncology drugs, controlling an annual budget of €500 million. Ad Kronos reports the cost of Kymriah will be about €300,000 higher than was reported, €150,000 to €200,000 by La Stampa in July. Elsewhere, Dr. Jacob Thomas, a physician and clinical investigator with Newport Beach, California's Hoag Hospital, recently penned a commentary in the Los Angeles Times on the importance of clinical trials to help advance both the present and future of medicine. Working at the Hoag Family Cancer Institute, Dr. Thomas is witnessing firsthand a remarkable evolution in medicine from reprogramming patients' immune systems with immunotherapy to directly injecting chemotherapy into tumors to state-of-the-art genomic testing of tumors for more precise treatment. Hoag Hospital is at the forefront of the clinical trial community health wave. A Crohn's disease-like ileitis by regulation of multiple innate and adaptive cellular pathways. Therefore, Tweak FN14 could represent a novel therapeutic target for the treatment of small intestinal inflammation in Crohn's disease. Traditionally, surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy were the only cancer treatment options. Now, with an ever-growing array of advanced clinical trials available at Hoag, Dr. Thomas notes that, and I quote, that we are now entering an era that is more focused and sophisticated. And he continued, in the coming years, precision medicine, immunotherapy, and injectable therapies will take over where standard treatments have left off. We will have a tighter grip on cancer, a smarter approach to treatment, and better, longer-lasting results. Meanwhile, in HIV-related news, where are we at with the elusive HIV vaccine? Well, still a ways to go, it would appear, reports SciDevNet. The only answer is an HIV vaccine, and developing one has been a challenge. Cecilia Rosen of SciDevNet reports that although we have achieved significant advancements in HIV and AIDS treatment and prevention, an actual vaccine remains elusive. One is desperately required to end the global pandemic, taking more than 700,000 lives each year. What works for most vaccines, antibodies that neutralize viral infections, doesn't work for HIV because the virus reproduces and mutates too fast for antibodies to be effective. Moreover, researchers have uncovered that different subtypes of HIV distribute around the world. For example, while subtype B is common in North America and Europe, subtype C prevails in southern and eastern Africa. Making matters trickier, the virus has the ability to hide inside cells that are free of infection, suppressing immune responses at an early stage of the disease. Finally, its genetic diversity is greater than any other pathogen to date. Global charity Adverse suggests the biggest reduction in new infections could be achieved by a combination of oral pre-exposure prophylaxis, or PrEP, universal antiviral treatment for people already living with HIV, and a vaccine. Avert suggests that an HIV vaccine is a more realistic approach today than a decade ago, and an optimistic forecast of HIV vaccine availability is one that might be available in 2030. Elsewhere in HIV-related news, the Trailblazer study, sponsored by Case Western Reserve University and their collaborator, the University of Cincinnati, is a comparative study of autologous CD4 plus T cells genetically modified at the CCR5 gene by zinc finger nucleases SP728 ex vivo expanded unmodified autologous CD4 plus T cells in treated HIV-1 infected participants. A randomized parallel assignment double-blinded study will include up to 30 participants and will run from 2019 till February 2024. Ms. Smith from WCPO reports that the CCR5 gene receptor is what allows people to actually receive HIV. In this Midwestern study, the investigators will exploit specialized gene editing technology known as zinc finger nucleases to cut that receptor out of a small number of white blood cells from study participants. In the study, each patient will get their own genetically edited white blood cells injected back into their bodies. Once this procedure is complete, the goal is that the cells are expected to naturally regenerate. Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland is leading the study while supported by the University of Cincinnati. The University of California, San Francisco is also participating. Turning now to lung disease-related news. AstraZeneca announced positive results from the Phase 3 ETHOS trial for triple combination therapy Breztri-Aerosphere, formerly PT010, in patients with moderate to very severe chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. Breztri-Aerosphere is a triple combination drug of budesonide, glycopyrronium, and formoterol fumarate, or BGF. Breztri-Aerosphere has been approved in Japan and is under new regulatory review in China, where it has been granted priority review by the National Medical Products Administration. It is also under regulatory review in the US and EU. Turning now to autoimmune-related news. Tsinghua University School of Medicine led a study comparing the efficacy and safety of IBI-303 and the originator drug adalimumab, Humira, on ankylosing spondylitis, or AS, patients. IBI-303 is comparable, and it's launched by Innovative Biologics, Inc., and is expected to reduce the medical expenditure of AS patients in China. A prominent Chinese investigator, Hu Jizhu, served as the PL of the 438 participating patients. 220 were treated with IB-1-303, while those in the control group received Humira. In addition to providing endpoints, the secondary endpoints were met, including AS assessment points such as ASA-20 response rate at week 12, ASA-40 response rate at week 24, ASA partial response rates, ASA 5 and 6 response rate, and BASDAI, etc. Overall, data indicates the comparable effects to the originator drug in terms of disease activity, improvement of physical functions, spinal mobility, tendinitis, overall patient assessments, and improvement of the quality of life. The safety and immunogenicity are comparable to those of Humira. Meanwhile, a first-in-human investigational treatment for muscular sclerosis, MS, and a systemic scleroderma, SSC, called EHP-101 was successfully completed. The Phase 1 clinical trial, sponsored by Emerald Health Pharmaceuticals, or EHP, demonstrated that EHP-101 was safe and well-tolerated in healthy volunteers, supporting further clinical development of EHP-101 for Phase 2 clinical trials. This preclinical proof of concept run in Australia by Nucleus Network lead the sponsor to be well-positioned to advance our lead product candidate through clinical development, reported CEO of EPH Jim Demisa, MD, reports Multiple Sclerosis News Today. Turning now to PTSD-related news. University of Central Florida, or the UCSF, restores a clinical research center specializing in the treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Will launch therapy programs in 3 U.S. military installations in fall 2019. These pop-up treatment programs are made possible by a $10 million grant into 2018 offered by the U.S. Department of Defense. And now turning to a tick-borne related news. The Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, or KAIST, and Chungbuk National University College of Medicine, or the CNUCM, has developed a vaccine for Asian-based Huya-yang-shan-banyang virus, also known as severe fever with thrombocytopenia syndrome, or SFTS, virus infection. KAIST and CNUCM lead investigators designed a vaccine antigen by deriving a common sequence from gene sequences of 31 different SFTS viruses, reports Korea Biomedical Review. Faced with the goal of developing a DNA-based vaccine, the Korean team had the advantage of using only safe genes to induce a safe and broad immune response. Once the team had designed the vaccine, they utilized animal models for a series of testing scenarios. They found that the vaccine suppressed infection in the infected animal model. Moreover, symptoms were eliminated. The team plans on commercializing the research, as it would appear the vaccine works very well. The Korean universities involved maintain a technology advantage they will capitalize on for market position. And finally, turning now to neurological disease-related news. University of South Florida, or the USF, is conducting a Phase 3 clinical trial for a drug that targets the genetic cause of Huntington's disease, or HD, which some describe as a mix of Parkinson's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, and Alzheimer's. Brutal. A USF neurologist, Dr. Juan Sanchez Ramos, is interviewed about the hereditary disease and the fact that after 25 years of research, we have no treatment to even slow the disease down. One promising clinical trial centers on the RG6040, which has been touted as the most advanced HD therapy in development. WJCT News reports on the Phase 3 clinical trials targeting the hereditary Huntington's disease. Health News Florida, Delina Miller, interviewed USF's neurologist Dr. Juan Sanchez Ramos about the disease. And we'll keep you posted on the story as it develops. Do you have any clinical news you'd like us to report on? If so, let us know. Contact information is in the box below. If you'd like to watch more videos, click on the playlist here. Thank you for joining us for this week's Trial Site News Roundup, and remember, subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of updates. We'll see you next time.